Tonight I'm making spaghetti for dinner.
Pasta? Does that mean our diet's over?
No, we're having zoodles.
Zebra noodles? You know, I love spaghetti sauce, but I actually looked in our pantry and we have a jar of spaghetti sauce, so I feel like this video is gonna be real short.
It's true, I do stock jars of spaghetti sauce, but this is $8 a jar, and I can make a whole pot of spaghetti sauce for a lot cheaper than this one jar. But I like this for a quick weeknight meal. So we're gonna start with some vegetables. We're gonna chop most of our vegetables in this food processor. We're going to make the spaghetti sauce much faster than on the stovetop by using our Instant Pot, and we're gonna do this as quickly as possible.
Great, I'm hungry.
We're gonna start by chopping celery, carrots. We're gonna put those in the food processor. I'm just cutting the ends off, and I will cut it into somewhat smaller pieces. These have been washed, but I don't bother to peel my carrots because I feel like they are a little healthier that way. It's going in a sauce, nobody will notice. We're just gonna finely chop these. If you've got picky kids, this is a good way to get some vegetables in.
What if you have a picky husband?
Too bad, eat it anyway. I'm gonna finely chop an onion as well. Add this to the bowl with the other vegetables. My eyes are getting a little weepy. Let's set those aside. We're done with this, so we'll clean up our area and be ready for the next part. To get the zucchini ready for the spiralizer, I trim the ends off and I'm gonna cut it into about 3 chunks to control the length of the zoodle that we end up with.
Zoodle.
The spiralizer cuts around the edge and into the middle, and so these will end up being quite long anyway, but I find the shorter pieces are easier to work with and do shorten the length of the noodle.
Zoodle. Okay, so this looks like a medieval torture device.
It does, but this is, actually it's quite dangerous, but it is a spiralizer for vegetables. There are several ways you could cut yourself on this. There's a very sharp blade here and some very sharp spikes on this side here that will spiralize your finger if you're not careful. So keep your fingers out of the way. I like to take the zucchini piece and just kind of center it on this round blade, and you can just hold it there and then push the spikes of the handle into the spiralizer and then give it a crank. We'll see spiraled noodles come out on this side. That's kind of nice. So then we just pull this back. There's this little leftover bit here. This middle part is mainly made of the seeds and the soft portion. I don't like to use it, but I will save these and you can chop them up finely and either include them in the sauce or saute them with the rest of the noodles. This is a right-handed machine. And mine's particularly squeaky.
So for serving size, it's 1 zucchini per person.
That's what I like. So you can see that these produce noodles that are quite long. So I tend to chop through this pile a couple of times because that's not making it. Once zucchini is cut, it starts to weep. Some of the moisture that is trapped inside the zucchini will start to weep out and you'll see it kind of sweat. You can increase that by salting it and then draining and rinsing, or you can just let it rest on some paper towels or a clean cloth to absorb some of that extra moisture. I like to prepare mine al dente by sauteing in a skillet with some olive oil and garlic. They tend not to get as runny then, but if you cook them a lot, they will release a lot of water, and so the more you remove at this point, the less water will end up in your dish later. So I'm going to put these on some paper towels and let them rest while we prepare the sauce.
Zoodles.
The next thing is to preheat the Instant Pot on its saute setting. I'm gonna brown some sweet Italian sausage in the pot, but you could use hot if you like. I also have some ground beef that's pre-browned that I keep in my freezer. I'm gonna use some of that as well. If yours isn't already browned, you can use the pot to brown the beef.
There's paper.
There sure is paper. So once the sausage is browned and or your ground beef, we're just gonna take it out and drain it. We'll set that aside for later. The next thing we're gonna do is saute our vegetables. We don't need to clean the pot or anything because all of these flavors are going together and these flavors blending is exactly what we want. So I'm gonna add just a touch of garlic infused olive oil. You could use plain olive oil too. And I'm going to add all of our vegetables that we chopped earlier. This is the carrots, celery, onions, and the little bits of zucchini. I'm gonna give that about 5 minutes to have them start breaking down. We'll stir occasionally, and then we'll add some garlic in to really amp up the flavor. While the vegetables are sauteing, I'm going to work on a little flavor boosting sauce. It starts with a cup of unsalted beef stock. I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of Worcestershire. So that's 2 tablespoons of that. We're looking for those earthy umami flavors. You could also include some mushrooms in this, and that would amp up the flavor as well. This is soy sauce, which is kind of a unique ingredient in spaghetti sauce, but I'm gonna give it a try. And then I'm gonna use some tomato paste. Being in a little baggie is kind of weird, but I've learned that after using a tablespoon of tomato paste out of that can, I can freeze the remaining tomato paste and make good use of it later. So I pack it into the two opposite corners of the baggie, and notice I've already used one corner of the baggie before, so this is a second time of using from the same can of tomato paste. It actually comes out a little easier when it's a still frozen block, but I'm gonna give this a little whisk. Try to break up some of that tomato paste that's in there. The vegetables will start to look a little translucent, at least the onions will. Carrots will start to soften. Give it another couple of minutes. The vegetables are softening, and I'm going to add some garlic. This is 6 cloves of minced garlic, 2 bay leaves. I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of dried oregano. I would ordinarily add some basil at this point as well. Fresh if you've got it, dried if you don't. But the only cans of tomatoes left in the store had basil in them already. So I'm gonna let that be and not add my own. The last step of this vegetable phase is to deglaze the bottom of this pot. We've got some good sausage bits stuck there and probably some onion and celery as well. So I'm going to add just about a teaspoon to a tablespoon of balsamic vinegar to just get those crispy bits off the bottom, and that's gonna have a lot of flavor. Give that a good stir and a scrape on the bottom. If you feel anything stuck, scrape it up.
Oh, that's vinegary. Oh.
The vinegar does boil off, so you'll smell it more than you'll taste it later.
Thank God. Oh.
This is where we add the meat back in. We're gonna add the Italian sausage, and remember that pre-browned ground beef I told you about? It's going in too. This is an extra lean ground beef, about 2 pounds. Stir that up for me.
I think maybe I should get that Danish whisk.
All right, I'm gonna pour in this umami sauce, and then we're adding in 2 28-ounce cans of crushed tomatoes. These happen to have basil in them. I'm gonna have you stop stirring, and we just rest this on top. We'll set the pressure and let it simmer. We'll turn the knob to sealing, and then we're gonna set the pressure to high for 15 minutes. Now that the timer is set, it has beeped at us to tell us that it is on and ready to begin building pressure. It'll build up the pressure and cook for 15 minutes from that point. At that point, we'll let it rest before opening it for 5 minutes. During that time, that's when we'll saute our zoodles, add a little garlic, and be ready to serve. Now that it is done cooking, we're going to let it naturally release for 5 minutes. So this is gonna count up for us. We're going to let it go for 5 minutes before we open it. This is a good time to prep our zoodles.
If you like what you've seen so far, hit that thumbs up, hit subscribe, and now let's go take care of those zoodles.
Got my skillet preheated. I'm just going to put in a little bit of olive oil to saute our zucchini noodles. These have been resting on a paper towel to absorb some moisture. Toss them with the oil a little bit. I'm not looking to cook these all the way through. I still want them to have a little bit of a bite to them. A little salt, pepper. These will start to get very vibrant, and then we'll know they're almost done. I'm gonna add in about a clove of minced garlic. Let that get fragrant, and these will be done. They don't take long at all. Oh man, this looks fabulous. And I love the taste.
Well, I didn't love the umami flavor in this particular sauce, but I think that really highlights the best part of making it yourself. You can adjust the recipe to your preferences and get it exactly how you want it, even on a diet.
Plus, it's cheaper. If you have your own recipe for spaghetti sauce, let us know in the comments below.
It was actually surprisingly easy to make, and zoodles aren't that bad. Zoodles.